as much as possible.
I mean, there's certainly some truth to that, but I think that might be overstating it a little bit, because I really got canceled by the right and the left.
Yeah.
And back in those days in 2017, you had these far left journalists at Huffington Post, Right Wing Watch, ADL, SPLC, and I really believe they were on a mission to find extremist rhetoric, the white nationalist, neo-Nazi boogeyman, all that kind of stuff. And they would look at someone like myself, 18, and if I was being serious or joking, things taken out of context, they would clip it, post it, and they wanted me to be the villain. And I think they wanted a lot of people to be the villain. I think the left, in a way, kind of created this climate where I think they pushed a lot of people farther to the right.
No, by the way, that very well may be true, but you gave them a lot of ammunition.
That's true.
You know, I mean, I hope that some of those things that you said in the past are not things that you believed in and that are you meant just to engender like a really radical kind of response. I mean, is that true or not?
Well, you know, again, I think that back in those days, you could not say anything. In 2017, 2018, cancel culture was so in overdrive. Any joke, any edgelording, anything like that, they would, first of all, there's no sense of humor.
I'm so old, I don't even,
okay, well, to break it down for you, so the dawn of wokeness as it's known today, I think was in like the post-Trump era. After Trump won the election in 2016, there was a big movement to deplatform and kind of push away those who, I guess the left feel like had galvanized them into the...
Kind of feel like he's trying to get mainstreamed here. He's just trying to say whatever he's got to say to have the left people accept him a little bit more. That's kind of what it's feeling like so far, because I was expecting him to go off whenever he started getting accusations from a crackhead.
Presidency.
Jesus.
So there was this big idea that if you push people off mainstream social media platforms, they would go away. Now we know through Trump's reelection, that's not even true. But at the time, that was the mantra. Problematic viewpoints needed to be silenced, tucked away somewhere, and they would just sort of die in isolation. So I think that was the climate where you first got started, 2017. That time period was like crucial for getting people off mainstream platforms. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I would say that you got to get into the psychology of those days. It felt like anybody that wasn't on board with the most progressive agenda had no options. There was just no alternative. It was going to be progressive, liberal, feminist, BLM, all that kind of stuff.
Still
and if you
is.
were to the right of John McCain, you're no platformed. Censored, banned from all the platforms, you're fired from your job, you're ostracized socially. And I think what happened really in 2021 when Trump got banned from the platforms is it felt like 70 million people got canceled. 70 million people that voted for Trump, or 60, 70 million people, we were all felt like, oh, so if Trump is out of politics and we're all banned from the platforms, then how is there any redress for our grievances? Do we just have to shut up and get with the program and we're all going to be progressive? And I think that drove people to a far more radical place where people said, well, what really is a solution? We can't talk, we can't express ourselves, we can't participate in the process or run for office. And I was one of the people saying that's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to drive people to extremism. If you don't talk, if people don't feel like they have a seat at the table in enfranchisement, I think then they start exploring options outside the system, outside of the political process, the democratic process. So I think it's self-inflicted in many ways.
So you feel like after the mass deplatforming in 2021, whenever people on the right got pushed to platforms like Parler, Rumble, etc., the lack of discourse and like the political singularity of those platforms created more extremism?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because look, you take Trump off of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and I predicted this in 21. I said, watch, you're going to see alternative social media rise because some venture capitalist is going to see there's a huge market of 70 million people that are going to follow Trump because Trump is no platform. And that's exactly what happened. Rumble blew up, Elon bought Twitter. And what happened when you had total free speech on these platforms? Well, Twitter now resembles 4chan. And now, there's no gatekeepers. And I think it did push people in a radical direction. And honestly, people are even blowing past me. Now there's like mainstream normie types.
That's bullshit. It's still not far enough. We have Rumble, where you can't make a living on Rumble, and X. I can't make a living off X. I use that just to get people here. They got to take it back from like YouTube for sure, because they are the worst. They're almost as bad as TikTok.
That are even blowing past me in terms of how radical they are. People start saying things like, there's no political solution, there's going to be a civil war, we need a revolution. And I think that's because the message from the left was, you're crushed. You have no options, you can't win, there's no alternative. Trump is going to be indicted and charged and can't run. You can't be on Twitter, you can't have a job. And so people started to say, okay, well, we still exist. We're still here, we still have these concerns. What do we do now? And then people start to say, well, we need a revolution. And I'm one of the only people saying, no, we should still engage in the process and talk with each other. And it's not all one-sided. I think there's problems on the left and the right, but I certainly think it takes two to tango.
Okay, so there, we agree. I think that there are problems on the left and the right, and I don't disagree with some of the things that you just said. I guess I just came to a different conclusion that there are some things that people should be deplatformed for. Not that they can't say it where they want to say it, but I think that it's a right of anybody.
Okay, top three things. What do you think?
There's a difference between being able to say that you're proud of your white heritage and also being just flat out racist. I think that there's a difference between saying you're proud of your Christian heritage and the white culture from what you come come from, and Nazis, or that you adopt the Nazism as a legitimate ideology. I think that there's a difference between saying that you disagree with the United States policy as it relates to Israel and saying that the Holocaust didn't exist.
That was like, Mom, Dad, Hitler was awesome. Hitler was right. And the Holocaust.
So tone policing from a crackhead. That's what we're getting here. Tone policing from the crackhead who fucked his may or may not have fucked his, dead brother's wife. We're going to get a lecture on morality from that. All right. Whatever.
Didn't happen. And my parents were like, we cannot believe.
Those would be top three things in my mind. I know that you believe that some people took you out of context, and I do agree. Look, I'm both the right and the left. There are these gatekeepers, 100%. And look at me, the mainstream press just destroyed me for 7 years without any real kind of
No, crack cocaine destroyed you for over a decade. We all got to see it.
reflection about what they were doing. I do think that, some of those things are legitimate reasons to say, we don't want you on our, on our commercial platform. Would you agree with that? I mean, you just said, for instance, people calling for like an armed revolution, like people calling for actual violence. You're opposed to.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm against violence.
Yeah.
And I do think those are one of the legitimate things that should be taken from the platform. There's a lot of the stuff on social media I don't agree with. But again, what started to happen is there was this like editorial censorship where certain ideas were banned. And it was such a broad brush and also totally opaque and ad hoc. You'd be on YouTube, like I was, for example, they banned me for life and didn't even give me a reason. Not a specific quote, not a specific infraction. And so you don't know what the rules are. You don't know what the process is. They just take you down. And especially now when everything is digital, it's not just the social platforms, it's the other ones like Uber, Airbnb, whatever. It feels like you're being denied almost something like a civil right. The social platforms are the modern public square. Increasingly with Uber, Airbnb, the banking apps, you can't live your life without the tech platforms. And it felt like if you just simply had the wrong opinions or you were the wrong kind of person, you were being deprived of like a basic civil right or being able to participate in society. So
I agree. YouTube, you hear this? Unshadow ban me now.
And I think maybe that's an area of collaboration where we recognize maybe it is a civil right to use the digital platforms, but here are the rules. Here's what you can say. Here's what you can't say. Here's the process. Maybe there's a reconciliation mechanism, but I mean, the censorship was just out of control. I don't think anyone disagrees there's a reasonable limit though.
Yeah, no, I guess what I'm saying is that I don't see that as a result of left-wing or right-wing ideology. I view that kind of level of deplatforming. Look, I was debanked. I was debanked before I was ever even charged with anything. I lost every bank account. It took me 9 months once they.
Oh, the president's son can't get a bank account. I'm sure that's not the same thing Nick went through. You didn't get debanked. You were a crackhead. You couldn't keep your balance. That's what happened.
The Trump administration, said that they were starting an investigation into me to be able to actually get a bank account again. And I don't want to tell you the bank because tomorrow they may debank me again. But my point is that those people are incredibly identifiable. I've been talking and going around and I say things like, I don't think we are nearly as divided as they're telling us we are. Because I do believe that there are an identifiable group of people that are responsible for an enormous amount of the discord and division because they make money off of it. I think that these social media companies that are controlled by 3, 4, 5, individuals have made clear that they only care about one thing. They only care about how much money they can produce for themselves and, the people that hold stocks in their company. Even to the degree where we know for certain that they're driving teenage girls to the highest levels of suicide by a factor, like exponential factors, directly related to the content that they're being pushed, and they won't do anything about it.
Right.
And so, to the same degree, I think they, a lot of what you call wokeness was maybe an illegitimate, but a financial decision based on a lot of these
Corporate psyop, maybe.
Corporate psyop.
Thank you.
I mean, by the way, exactly.
I don't know, everything just feels so different. So when I got there, I was trying to identify what they meant by white culture. It wasn't really based on shared cultural practices, but more the exclusion of people who weren't white. So they weren't like.
Yeah, I'm kind of agreeing. This is more like a application for the mainstream and he's doing the interview here. It's not even like a debate. Like I was sold as a debate, and it kind of feels like Nick's cut on the kid gloves so he can get mainstream here. Come on, man. Destroy this dude.
Stoked on being European necessarily. They're more just like, oh, we're here because those people aren't here. So it just kind of felt more negative than constructive.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not really involved with that project in particular, but I think that, look, I mean, you talk about the anger that's out there and the frustration. And I think part of the frustration, let's be honest, is that white people do feel like we are being boxed
I'll liven it up for you. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'll say something stupid eventually. Give me time.
Out in major cities in the country, and it feels like, look, there's a little Haiti, and there's various ethnic enclaves where you get that local culture, and they do their, cultural festivals and that sort of thing. And white people feel like they're being pushed out, and they want a space where things are familiar.
Do you feel the same way about the Italian festival?
We have a place. It's called the NHL. We can all go there.
That happens in every city.
Well, here's a good example. So,
or St. Patrick's Day?
Well, there's no Irish neighborhood in Chicago. Little
Sure
Italy.
there is.
I mean, there's some remnant in Bridgeport.
Yeah.
And,
It's important to note that, and I'm not trying to get into like a shouting match here, but as a family coming from a family who did leave Philadelphia in the 60s because of black migration from the South after the Civil Rights Act was passed, there was a sort of like mass flight of white people into the suburbs, and that kind of led to a homogenization of different cultures because they rushed so fast to build these like identical strip mall suburbs that it was very hard to maintain cultural bonds that made different European and white neighborhoods unique around like the 1950s and before. So I feel like the mass suburbanization is also a big factor that led to those like cultural bonds breaking.
Yeah, but why did that happen? I mean, a lot of the suburbanization is because of the race riots in the 1960s. People moved out because of the violence. My grandfather was in the National Guard in Chicago when, after MLK got assassinated, the whole West Side burned to the ground. Yeah. And people didn't want to be around that anymore.
Why were the riots?
MLK Jr. was assassinated.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so does that justify burning down the city?
No, I didn't say it justifies it, but it sure justifies an enormous amount of the anger, the same kind of anger that you feel about being left out, the same kind of anger that you're...
Yay, let's burn down our own homes. We're mad. Let's just burn our own shit up. That's smart.
Expressing right now about the idea that you're culturally irrelevant, that you don't have a place in society. Imagine if you were a 26-year-old black man in 1968 and saw your hero be assassinated. Say stuff like that. Okay, without having to say it like that. And
that's not how it started, though.
This is a legitimate argument, but it's Nick.
Nick, Hunter, what do you guys make of the concept of community collapse? Have you guys heard of this?
No.
So it's got nothing to do with race, it's got nothing to do with money, but this is kind of a crazy stat. So in 2019, before COVID, 76% of Americans said they were part of an in-person community that gave them some kind of value. After COVID, and this year, it was 19%. So I think that politics and race aside, one of the biggest issues is the collapse of social bonds, third spaces, communities, in-person engagement, which comes with loneliness, more time online, and more division. I understand. I feel like you guys aren't going to agree. I want to talk about what you guys think can be done on an individual and community level to stop people from hating each other and to create more belonging and engagement.
I agree with all of that. I think cell phones and social media, all that shit that they tried to pretend like was going to bring us all together, it's never made me feel further away from everyone else. People don't even go out anymore. It's just a different world. And I think it ruined the world. Like online dating is the only way to date now because women just have the option of every man in the world. And it's made life really, really, really unbearable. It's fucking awful.
Well, number one, I think this. Okay, for real.
Podcasting.
No, not podcasting, this discussion. For me to be able to sit down with someone who I so vehemently disagree with and find some kind of common ground.
But I mean, guy at home who's watching this on his phone just thinking, I wish I could go outside, but I don't know anyone.
Okay, well, here's what I'm talking about. It's all about connection. It is all about actually connecting with people. And I'm not talking about digitally connecting with people anonymously online. I'm talking about actually going out and connecting with people. And I don't have an answer to that. I don't, any of us. We're look, man.
He doesn't have the answer. He can't tell you how he's going to make everybody out in the world stop sucking so much. Because that's the main reason I don't go around people, because they suck so fucking bad. Like, make them stop sucking and I'll go around them more.
I just think that you are targeting the wrong problem, Nick. I think that our biggest problem right now doesn't have to do with this cultural divide or racial divide or religious divide or the idea that America is becoming less white or culturally relevant anymore. I think our biggest problem is literally an oligarchy that is inflaming every single division that we have. And by the way, and they're out for you, man, just as much as anybody else.
Well, and I agree.
So those platforms that we talk about that you're now allowed to be on because Elon's out on the platform. Elon doesn't give a shit about anything other than one thing.
Wait, Hunter, I just want to say, real quick.
Money and his money.
I don't necessarily. Really, the loss of society is the fact that we don't encounter people anymore. For example, on your way to work or, in ways that are unexpected. People wake up in their house, which is separate from everybody else. They get in their car by themselves, drive to work by themselves, and then they meet with their colleagues and everything, but then they go right home. Go home, have a beer, watch Netflix until they go to bed. Next day starts all over again. And so, I think it has a lot to do with maybe how we structure the cities. I think, honestly, a big part of it, there's like this abundance mindset with liberals. Liberals want to have prosperity and everything like that. how can you have that when the cities are not safe? I think that one of the ways, for example, if you want to have those encounters that are unplanned or spontaneous, they're going to happen maybe on the subway, on the bus, on your way to work. People don't want to ride the subway anymore. People don't want to ride the bus. They don't
I just feel
like
that
it's
if
safe.
you look at the data, like right now, 2026, I think 2025 had the lowest homicide rate of any year in America for like the past 4 years. I feel like if you compare data from the 90s, like the cities, I get what you're saying, but the cities I have noticed are a lot safer. They're also, becoming more expensive as well. Could have something to do with it.
You're absolutely right. What you're saying, Nick, is impossible to refute, right? Because everybody has an experience with violence or witnessing a crime, or whether it's just in their local newspaper or not. Is that I don't think that is in any way limited to only urban environments. I take the top 10 poorest red states in the country, and their crime rates are 10 times what many urban centers are.
So you'd be comparing like West Virginia, coal country, disenfranchised to like an urban neighborhood.
Yeah, in terms of per capita crime, in terms of per capita murder, in terms of per capita child sexual abuse, yeah. I think the things that people really care about, things like that, is their own personal safety. Yeah. It is not limited to African-American urban or Latino-American urban environments. It's not. It exists. Carjackings do happen, but you know where they happen? They happen in Biloxi, Mississippi, just as much as they happen in Chicago.
I'm skeptical of that.
I mean, I just think the idea of like safety,
Not per capita. Not per capita. That is insane.
Yeah, crime has been, I feel like media has overblown the level of danger.
Everybody's going to fact check both of us on this. And but I agree with you. But my point about all of it is that you can always point to a reason, Nick. There's never been a time in which there hasn't been crime in major urban areas where you pack a lot of people in. You're right, though, is that the difference between us feeling like each other are neighbors and that we can find some common ground is the fact, you can live in existence now and by the time you're 56 years old and never really have to leave your house to make a living, you don't go to the community center anymore. And I don't know how to fix that. And I certainly don't know how to fix it.
It all connects back to politics, right? Because community is like an essential human need, if not the most important thing. So when you are deprived of that, you're more likely to look for a radical solution and be like, everything's
kind of almost like the Epstein list, huh? Yeah, people are starting to wake up. That's my whole point. That's what I've been trying to say, that they are our overlords. They can fuck children and they will tell you if you're driving too much. That's where we're going to get to, right? They're putting cameras in cars so they can watch you while you drive. And if you don't look like you're being sober enough, they'll just shut the car off. That's a piece of equipment you just financed for like 3 to 4 years, right? And it's going to turn itself off on you. That's where we're getting to. And they're shoving these data centers down our throats. And that's what they're all going to be for this like surveillance state like China has. They want that. They all want that. And as long as we keep fighting left versus right, they're going to get that. They're going to get it.
Broken. We need to try something really out there. So you might embrace something more reactionary on left or right to be like, fuck this, we need something new. And so I'm not trying to draw this like male loneliness, like incel pipeline that the media tries to do all the time. But do you see a connection there between like people being lonely and having less friends and subcultural choice taking over community value systems or community engagement and people just like driving to the extreme?
100%. I think social dislocation is probably the number one problem of our times, because you look at the young people and you're right. It is one of those essential human needs, is to connect and have that sense of familiarity, to be seen, to see and to be seen. And that's something young people don't have. And I think, by the way, you look at the way young people socialize and even the mentality, I think a lot of young people have this absolute drive to go to college. Why? It's an extension of high school. And what do high school and college have in common? It's a community. You're in the quad. You can see and be seen. There's sort of like a status, reputation.
I look at college as like advanced programming, because that's where they really hammer in the finer points of feminism and Zionism and all this other horse shit that doesn't make any sense. They just kind of brainwash it into you. That's like your advanced degree in brainwashing. Like they try in high school, but most people don't pay attention in high school. So you go to college so they can hammer these into you so you believe them. You believe them and you don't even know why you can't argue against them in a debate. People can't debate them because they know they're going to get their ass pushed in, but they'll love to say it in the comments, but they won't get on and debate it because they know that they're brainwashed. Deep down, I think everyone kind of knows, like, you can't defend feminism and you can't defend Zionism. That's why they lose debates. That's why the big guys like Ben Shapiro, they refuse to do the debates because they know they can't win them. It's just an unwinnable debate.
Constantly involved with other people. And I think everybody, young people, look at when they graduate from college like falling off a cliff and now life is over. Because now you just have your job, the gym, and going back home, and that's it. And this is why a lot of young people then want to move to the big cities. Got to go to New York, got to go to Chicago or LA where it's happening. And they want to get a condo or an apartment downtown because they want to go to the bar scene, extend college a little bit longer. And I think that's just not really a sustainable way to have a society. There has to be a way for people to still have that sense of community outside of, let's say, college and high school, even into their adulthood and then into their old age. So yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest problems going on. And I agree. I think it drives.
I was just thinking about that the other day. Like, I remember when I was a kid, there were 3 channels on TV, right? When I was a real tiny kid. And we would all come to school the next day and like we would all be able to talk about what we saw on TV last night. Now there are 10 billion channels on TV and people just don't have any kind of like social cohesion. They don't like talk to people the same way because they don't share the same lived experience. It's like we're all living in our own little matrix, I guess, you know? And it's just, it's a fascinating thing to me. I found it fascinating. Like and I think that's why kids now can't talk to people because they don't have the same shared experience. That they come to school excited to talk to Timmy about, you know, what happened on the A team last night. Well, Timmy watched something different. So you're not going to have any kind of way to bond and learn to conversate with each other. You're just going to go your own ways. So.
Even to your point about the whites-only community in Arkansas, I think it is driving these, let's call it ghettoization or insulation.
And that nobody's really come to terms with how traumatic that was for everyone.
And especially for the younger generations. I think severely less for the older generations, but for the younger people, missing the graduations, missing critical years in school, that's when the socialization happens. That's when you learn to get along. And so you think about how this generation is going to grow up having 2 to 3 lost years, you know, no sports, no school, no extracurriculars, vacation.
Exactly what I was saying. A whole generation of retards.
It's devastating. And we already had a problem with that isolation, social dislocation, loneliness. I can't even imagine. So it's going to be devastating, I think. But that's a lockdown.
So maybe if you're watching this video after this, you know.
No, it was worse. It was bad before the lockdowns. They were weirdo creeps before that. That didn't just happen from the lockdowns. Trust me, they were weirdos well before that.
Put your phone or computer away, go outside, make a friend. Just do anything but scroll to the next video. Back in the day during Nickelodeon, they had Go Outside Day.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I feel like we need like one day a week where it's mandated in a tech oligarch sense that no one can go on their phone or use the computer.
I'll say this. I think it would be good for children if they just lined them up at once a year, and I just go down the street and punch them all in the nose. Not really hard, not enough to do any damage, just enough to know some shit's going to suck in life. You're just going to have to suck it up and deal with it. Like that would be a better solution than giving them a safe space. Like I call it the purge, whatever you want. I just go punch every kid in the face. Not hard, just enough so they know life's gonna suck.
Man, I would love that. I mean, that's one thing. Is if we could, the one thing we could all agree on. The way I say it now is you're all carrying around a bag of heroin in your pocket. Everybody is, and it's probably even more dangerous in some ways.
Would either of you guys ever run for office?
Are you asking me for real?
Yeah.
No.
Please do.
I think that politics, the way that my dad engaged in it, and I'm obviously incredibly biased, is an incredibly noble thing. But that's not where my head is in terms of what I want to do. I want to reach. My whole thing is that forget all of this. I want to reach 1 million people in addiction. I think one of the biggest things about addiction, one of the reasons why it continues to be this epidemic, is that we don't talk about it. Is that you don't even talk about it.
I do not trust him. I do not trust him at all. I think he's just trying to get to the easier women, and he's found a loophole here to get to those women.
Around a dinner table. And what you realize, if you're coming from my particular unique situation, is that everybody comes to me and they tell me their story. And sharing that is like, breaks that cycle of shame. And so I want to reach 1 million people in addiction.
How about you, Nick? Would you ever run for office?
I don't think so, no.
I know, being the son of a president, your life is all set before you now. You've gotten $1 million contracts to work for Burisma. You fucking sold paintings for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Oh, it must be nice to be one of the elite's children. I wish I was.
Just because I don't think you can fully be authentic when you're running for office because...
Now you're just going to go be a playboy philanthropist and help the needy people who get addicted to drugs that you used for decades.
It's a different role. And I think my role, they say, according to the Overton window idea...
Ideas that are inside the Overton window are ideas that are politically safe. The public is ready to accept them.
They say that if you want to change people's opinions and what they consider acceptable, you kind of have to be the first to the punch and maybe considered a bad person or evil or whatever in order to promote your view. And so that just doesn't lend itself to that kind of politics. So I think to protect my own integrity and authenticity of the message, I have to not run for office.
See what we just did? We just made probably the entire audience happy. One half is glad I'm not running. The other half is really glad he's not running.
I'm disappointed Hunter's not running. That would have been the funnest campaign ever. Can you imagine the debates? Like they would just debate over, Coke versus crack, which is better. Like, what are they going to fucking debate this idiot on? He hasn't lived a real life. He's lived as a president's child, and not just a regular president like Jimmy Carter who didn't steal, like a really corrupt president. Like, what the fuck? He doesn't even know how much an egg costs. Like, he can't tell you how much a dozen eggs cost within $20. He can't fucking tell you. I'm tired of even thinking of people like that as a candidate for politicians. Like, they need to be regular people. They need to go through what we go through. That's what we need. A regular guy. No more millionaires and billionaires and, you know, whatever trust fund baby shithead this is.
If not you guys, then is there any candidate or prospective candidate that you feel like could run in 2028 that would, you know, have a fair shot that y'all support?
Nobody in particular for me. Honestly, I haven't really been too impressed with who's come out of the Republican Party. So I'm hoping they'll just be somebody we haven't heard of, somebody maybe that hasn't been in office before.
He's voting for Gavin Newsom in 20.
That's right. Yeah. Well, if it's Newsom and Vance, I'd certainly think about it.
Yeah.
How about you? Anybody that, you know, creates a twinkle in your eye?
No, I think that there are a lot of people. I mean, I know that you think that you're going to laugh at me, but I personally like Gavin Newsom a lot. I think that he's authentic in those beliefs, whether you agree with them or not. Thomas Massey's
More of the same. The same guy who gave like lockdown rules for everybody in his state and then fucking just violated them all to go to eat at fancy restaurants whenever he wanted to. Yeah. No more overlords. No more overlords. Like, what the fuck?
principled stand as it relates to the Epstein files was incredibly courageous.
Do not let the Senate muck this bill
There
up.
we go.
I am sorry if one of your billionaire donors is going to get embarrassed because he went to Rape Island.
And that's why he's not going to be a congressman anymore. But that's why, you know, he could potentially make a really strong national candidate.
And you guys think America will
First smart
exist
thing
in
he
a
ever said.
post-Epstein capture freeway?
Will America exist?
Yeah, like, you know, will America survive the current power structure's stranglehold on the media, the political system, and all public affairs?
I don't know. I think AI is going to really be transformative. It's interesting. Nobody seems to be talking about that.
Transformative in what sense? Like for bad?
Concentration of power. That's the single biggest. And you know what? I'm actually on the liberal side on this with Anthropic over the, let's say, you know, because there's this battle between these effective altruists, effective accelerationists, and I really am nervous about what's going to happen, especially in the next 4 years, because they're racing towards this artificial general intelligence, artificial super intelligence, and that, without a doubt, is going to be the single biggest influence on the country. And so I'm really worried about that.
And what about that concern you? Is it surveillance?
It's the concentration of power in the hands of whoever controls it, whichever firm.
It's Skynet. We've all seen what's going to happen. It's Skynet. They're going to kill us all and use us, harvest us for energy. Like, didn't you see The Matrix? We all know where this is going, and it always goes in a bad direction. And we still got to let the fucking oligarchs tell us you have to do it. They got to put a data center right next to your house because reasons. No, we've got to get people to say no.
Is the one to develop ASI that could confer dictatorial-like powers upon the CEO of that company. So whether that's Sam Altman or it's Dario, you know, if the artificial intelligence is aligned with its creator, that person will become the most powerful person in the history of mankind.
It's almost an inherent truth, in my opinion, what he just said, is that the greatest leap in human evolution is going to happen within our lifetimes. AGI, let alone, you know, superintelligence, is everything that we think about the way in which we exist in the world completely changes. And I don't think that that's in any way hyperbole. And if you listen to the people that are developing these technologies right now, they are the most alarmist.
I think AI will probably, most likely, sort of lead to the end of the world.
If you want to know what life's like,
That was one of the creators that's doing it. Just said it's going to bring us to the end of the world. And he's the one doing it. That's your motive whenever we start having the trials.
when you're not the apex intelligence, ask a chicken.
And now, by the way, I think that there's an enormous possibility for incredibly beneficial things to society, like being able to cure cancer. I just think of this one thing. Everything that AI is built on is ours, belongs to you and you and you, all the way back through the human civilization. That's what they're stealing from us, and they're putting it into the hands of literally a handful of people. All of that human knowledge and the value that comes from it. And I think that that's ours. So any AI that is developed, particularly that goes to HEE, it should be communal. It should be shared in the not just the beneficial offshoots of it, but the actual money of it should be shared.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it's
Nah, it's a witch. Burn it. Burn it. Burn it to the ground. No more AI.
like nuclear bombs, but it's also a commodity at the same time. The weapons potential, the economic potential, I think that's going to be the biggest thing. And I hope on some level that liberals win that argument because, you know, what Trump is doing with the Pentagon, Anthropic, and OpenAI, the way they're handling it is so reckless and sloppy and just honestly unbelievable. So we need some adults in the room on that one.
Well, it's been a great conversation. I appreciate you guys for coming. You guys have any final questions you want to ask to each other, or maybe a message you want to give to the American people?
I still believe in America, and I truly believe in these conversations. And I think everyone that's watching would think that I would not want to sit down with Nick. And this, I guess, what I'm getting at with you is that I hope you see the humanity in me, and so in the way that you talk in the future takes that into consideration. And what I'll do is I'll see the humanity in you.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a great conversation, and I think that we have to come together on the things that we agree on, which is, for example, that we love the country, we both believe in America, we both want the country to succeed, and I like what you said, that we see the fundamental humanity in each other. And I think that especially in the events of the last year, the killing of Charlie Kirk, you realize that's actually not something that people on both sides share. I think there's people on the right and the left that don't see the humanity in the other side. And so maybe that's the new consensus, or that's where we can come together, is on the basis that, we disagree on fundamental issues, and even sometimes it gets heated and we yell at each other, but that we do ultimately want the best for each other. We love each other. We want the country to succeed. And I think that's a starting point for any solution and any conversation.
All right, American brothers, thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
You heard it here first. Nick Fuentes loves Hunter Biden. Fucking nasty. God damn. Well, that was a good debate, I guess. I guess you call it a debate. I don't really know if I would call that a debate, but we'll go with it. Go with it. Call it a debate. I just felt like Nick Light. It felt like we got Nick Fuentes Light in this one. Like, I want the guy from like 5 years ago. Like, that little maniac that was saying all the crazy shit. I wanted him in that. That would have been fucking amazing. But anyway, there are your debates for today.